The article is titled Collective Conscious and Our Impending Doom. Can we sense what is to come? Then this kind of speaks to the theory that there is a collective unconscious, that us humans, we have our conscious mind that helps us navigate the world, but there is the collective unconscious that is kind of tied together in a way. And there have been various studies done that can kind of lead to this conclusion. One of the more significant ones that there are random number generators set up all over the world, and during the 9/11 attacks and leading up to it, those random number generators started to produce numbers that were less random, indicating that people's consciousness possibly could have influenced the outcome of those random number generators. Like there is a power, there is an unseen attachment between all conscious entities here on this planet, maybe everywhere in the universe, that can influence the outcome on an event, or at least recognize the event as it happens. And it's measured in some way. But here's the article here. Over the last decade, pessimism about the future of humanity seems to have ramped up, particularly in online spaces. Could it be that we instinctively know things are about to change drastically? And next kind of sub-headline here, it all began with Harambe. Is it Harambe or Hombre, the gorilla? I think it's Harambe.
Harambe.
Right? Harambe.
It did all begin with Harambe.
Harambe was a Western island gorilla who gained international attention in May 2016 when a child fell into his enclosure at the Cincinnati Zoo. Concerned for the child's safety, zoo officials made a decision to fatally shoot Harambe. This incident led to a huge outpouring of grief and memes online. Throughout 2016, as more and more bad things happened, the internet came to believe that the killing of Harambe somehow set off a string of unfortunate events that seem to continue to this day. While the problem
split the multiverse.
Maybe that is where it kind of really started to split. Maybe 2012 is where there was a catalyst to the split with like CERN, but really in 2016, those made hard turns, to one side or the other in the multiverse. While it probably wasn't caused by the death of Harambe, many of us would agree that there is a general feeling of unease and a sense of impending doom lingering over humanity with a much greater intensity than usual. Are things really that much worse than they have been in the past? We have definitely had a rough few years by anyone's standards. Since 2016, political polarization has surged globally, leading to rise of extreme ideologies and behaviors. The rise of far-right movements have increased nationalism and xenophobia. Divisive rhetoric has fueled the rise of hate crimes against minority groups, fostering fear and insecurity. Gridlock in policymaking has exacerbated systemic inequalities, making it harder for everyday people to get by. And so I will read the bullet points of this article, and then I'll move to the second one. So what this article is essentially saying, I'll try to break it down. So there's a rise in pessimism in humanity. Whether that's new or not, it certainly seems to be more prevalent because we can communicate a lot more easily online. So that pessimism is more noticeable, and maybe us noticing it may spread it. Apparently, Harambe's death is a significant point in our universe that is like a bookmark, and suggesting that all the events afterwards are just as awful, and people just is a galvanizing event. This article also talks about global challenges, listing a significant global challenges since 2016, including political polarization, COVID-19, climate change, conflicts in Ukraine and Gaza, AI-related job displacements, and economic crises. And then it also provides historical context. It provides historical perspective comparing current events to past hardships like world wars, the Spanish flu, the Great Depression, and Cold War tensions, which we are experiencing now. But then it goes on to address like mental health concerns in relation to pessimism, such as doom scrolling and mental health. The article discusses the concept of doom scrolling and its impact on mental health, noting an increase in depression and anxiety in the youth. But then it starts to take a turn, talking about the Akashic records. In this article, it references the Akashic records, and so the Akashic records is something that people in the spirituality community talk about, the near-death experience people, where everything you do in your life is recorded. It is written down in a book, and your events are then cataloged, and you are to read them upon your death. Like, hey, you did this, you did this. It's a diary of everything you've done, and it is stored basically up there in the cloud, and you can read about it when you die. So this theory introduced the theory that the Akashic record suggesting a possible collective unconscious access to a cosmic database that may be influencing current societal unease. And then also explores animal instincts and human sensing, explores how animals can sense danger, and posits that humans might have a similar sense, an unrecognized ability to detect impending significant events. So something like animal instincts, but maybe our instincts when it comes to sensing doom, it might be a little bit more farther off. We can sense maybe impending doom 6 months out, maybe a year out, where animals appear to be able to react fairly quickly to like an earthquake or something like that, natural disasters.
Didn't one of our listeners share a footage from one of their cameras of the dogs freaking out moments before an earthquake?
That was our buddy Farmer Matt. Farmer Matt, who is in Hawaii. I visited his homestead when I was in Hawaii, and they had an earthquake there, I would say about a month before we visited, and he had security camera footage of his dog kind of freaking out. I would say close to 5 to 10 seconds before the earthquake hit that his part of the island, and is right there on tape. So either the dog just sensed the earthquake, the gradual building of the tremors, or there was something else at play. And then this article talks about sense of doom in historical collapse. It examines periods of societal collapse throughout history where there was a collective sense of doom, such as the fall of the Roman Empire and the Maya collapse. And so it just kind of throws out.
How do they know that? How do they know that? Is it like you know what I mean? Like writing stuff down was probably not uncommon, but it wasn't super common, and certainly lasting forever. There would have to be a historian.
So when it comes to the Maya, it might be a little tougher. Maybe there are Roman documents of like accountants going, "This doesn't look good. We're bleeding money here. This does not look good.
This doesn't look good. Call Rabbi Shmuley."
I mean, we're hiring a lot of soldiers. We're killing a lot of citizens. This cannot continue here. So they probably found some scrolls like that. And then in the second article that I found related to consciousness, these two articles kind of came across my desk, the home office here, in the span of a couple days. And this is titled Panpsychism. Could everything in the universe be conscious? So this article states, one theory suggests that everything in the universe, even the chair you sit on, has some level of consciousness. While in recent years, scientists have made great strides in unraveling the workings of the physical human brain, we still today are no closer to understanding the nature of human consciousness. As things stand, we really don't understand what consciousness even is. Is it something that manifests as a result of the functionality of our physical brain, or does it exist independent of our physical self? Well, in the previous article, it's talking about the Akashic records, like maybe certain details are stored elsewhere. they're stored in a non-physical realm. Well,
Bill
according
Hicks had a good summary of what that was, but it's basically the brain and the body experiencing itself.
Mhm.
So I don't want to derail the story, but I love that question.
I mean, they're pretty big philosophical questions. Do you exist outside of your physical body? Near-death experiences, like especially the ones from people that talk about seeing their body on the operating table and being able to read the lettering on the back of lamps, would suggest that you have some sort of consciousness that survives your physical death. And I believe that to be true. Out of all the people I've talked to who have had near-death experiences, they've convinced me some essence of yourself continues on. Whether or not it's your full-on personality or it's just a sliver of it, unknown. But back to this article.
I tend real quick. Go back. I'll sum it up. Maybe we'll get there.
It has been suggested, for example, that our conscious self might exist in multiple dimensions, and that we live and interact with the physical world by driving our bodies using our brain as an interface. While it is clear that humans and other animals possess consciousness, one theory goes one step further by suggesting that absolutely everything from planets in the solar system to the chair you are sitting on are conscious as well. Well, that's quite a step. Now, there is a book. I forget the name of the book off the top of my head. It was written by this woman who claims to be psychic, and she could see the energy flow between every object. Your chi in Eastern terms, like everything gives off chi, some sort of aura, some sort of energy, and some people have more of it. Some objects have more of it, and that chi is kind of like your life essence, to put it simply, I suppose. And she saw a connection between everything, between humans, between chairs. She could see the feng shui of a room, and she could interact, almost have the ability of object read, where in psychic terms, you could touch an object and you kind of get a brief history of that object, who owned it, what it went through, what it was put in, Rabbi, you know what I'm talking about? Things like that. So that's what they're theorizing here. While it is unclear that humans and other animals possess consciousness, okay, I read that part, known as Panpsychism, this idea is not a new one, but a growing number of scientists seem to be subscribing to the notion that consciousness may be far more pervasive than we previously thought. This is not necessarily to suggest that a chair, for example, is just as conscious as a human, but that objects possess a level of consciousness relative to their state and complexity. At the most basic level, even fundamental particles may possess some level of consciousness. Without fully understanding what consciousness is, how it works, and how it arises, however, it is impossible to say for sure what really does have consciousness, what has conscious and what does not. And this was written by Popular Mechanics. So, Joe, you diverted to me in that, and these are bigger, like I said, philosophical kind of questions here.
What's your takeaway? What are they positing?
So if you take the first one, where there is a collective unconscious, it might not just be a collective unconscious of humans, but of everything. So a collective unconscious of all things, whether it's the wall, the chair, Earth, planets, it's shared in some way and written down in the cloud somewhere, as coordinates, an action, a memory, that can be described and used at a later time to go back to that event or to talk about that event. It's logged somewhere in computer terms. Everything has a log. Everything has a position like a video game. And it's all shared together. And there are attributes to everything. Now, I I did something. So I took that first article, I took the second article, and I uploaded it to Chat GPT. And then I asked Chat GPT to extrapolate both articles. I said, hey, you got the first one, you got the second one. Maybe can you come up with any sort of, can you compare these two articles and extrapolate on that? And I can read you what it came up with here. So the extrapolation is when we compare and extrapolate from these articles, a compelling narrative emerges. Our collective anxiety about the future and the challenges we face as a species might be deeply tied together to a broader, perhaps universal consciousness. This consciousness permeates everything, from the chair we sit on to the stars in the sky. The sense of impending societal collapse could be a manifestation of this universal consciousness reacting to the stressors that we have placed on the planet and ourselves. This perspective encourages a holistic view of our current crises, suggesting that solutions might require a radical shift in how we perceive our relationship with this world. Acknowledging that we are part of a conscious, interconnected cosmos could inspire more sustainable and compassionate approaches to addressing the challenges we face, highlighting the importance of collective action and empathy in navigating the future. In essence, these articles prompt us to reconsider the nature of consciousness, our place in the universe, and how our understanding and actions today are shaping the future of humanity and Earth. I would say,
I like that. That's a really good, I mean, kudos to you put that in Chat GPT?
I put that in a Chat GPT and I asked them to compare and contrast these two articles about consciousness. And they're pretty out there, but they're gaining traction. And authors like Dean Radin have been writing books related to the power of the human consciousness. And even like when it comes to the slit experiment in quantum physics and quantum mechanics, how powerful our consciousness is to this reality, talks to about, some of these articles and the importance of this. But there's very interesting concepts here about what we see, how we experience life, and how crazy this reality really is.
Because it's interesting because Popular Mechanics is the magazine that debunked the 9/11 conspiracy theories, so that they're in the tank for whatever establishment stuff there is. They're supposed to be like, their reputation is one for science, right? So this is not their department, I would say.
I would agree. This is pretty far out for them to consider this.
So, and that, that's fine. I don't think that's like cosmic, entertaining these cosmic ideas is outside the realm of, when you're talking about quantum mechanics and all that stuff. Like, it's this, if I hadn't observed it, would it have done what it did? Like, that's quantum theory. It's actually really surprising that they've taken this nuanced and non-partisan view of the whole thing. It does feel like they're kind of putting it out there as a question, as opposed to here's how you should think. So I commend them on that.
Yeah, it's a little bit more even-handed, because they, even Popular Mechanics, they get political. They get divisive at times. So yeah, with these kind of broader topics, it's interesting they're putting this out there. I like this. I like talking about this because this goes to the basic, the big questions. What are we here for? What is this place all about? And I like talking about this stuff. And I'm categorizing like all these articles that I find like these bigger questions. And I will be uploading them to the AI, and then once I get enough of them, I will then continue to ask it to extrapolate and compare all these different things. And then maybe even as I do this, it will give rise to its own consciousness. We'll find out.
I like it. I almost feel like if you fed all of them in there, and said, here's one article, here's the second article, here's the third article, like give me a cross analysis of all three, like give me the highlight, something like whatever that prompt needs to be.
Yeah.
Because what you got back from ChatGPT, I found like pretty profound.
It's not bad.
Did you?
Yeah,
it was pretty good.
And I read you the short version of it because it did a pretty good analysis of these two things and made some good, I would say, some good conclusions between the two, which are similar articles dealing with consciousness, but were written about it in different ways.
ChatGPT responds to these kinds of questions and topics far better than a lot of people I know.
I would say so. If you try to ask somebody to extrapolate, and I thought about this problem. I thought about these two articles before I decided to prompt GPT. I was like, okay, I'm trying to extrapolate. I'm trying to figure out how these are connected before I even talk to the computer. And I was like, well, okay, hypothetically, there isn't a level of consciousness to just about everything. And we can sense.
Right. I don't think the chair is thinking about my ass.
No, but
sorry.
But it has a different level of consciousness. Maybe something along the lines of a bee or a bug. And so it has a level of it, maybe not even to the degree of a bee, because the bee does a lot more things than a chair. But I was thinking, well, even the planets, then there might be something to astrology, especially if the impending doom, that there could be more to astrology. And I believe that there is. I'm actually a fairly bigger believer in astrology now than I was a few years ago. And maybe there's something to that. It's everything's connected on some level. It's just that the communication and the information exchange is maybe not that apparent. They're coming in on different roads.
Sophisticated.
Or sophisticated,
right? Yeah. It's like a dog whistle, with great term of the last few years, but it's like it can only be heard, like certain frequencies, etc. Like we know that experience of when there's somebody in the same room and they're looking at us, even though we're not facing them and wouldn't be able to prove it, but we can feel it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
I think that has been proven to be a real thing. Like you can sense when someone is looking at you. Not every time. Some people are more gifted at it than others. But in general, you can kind of feel when someone's eyes are kind of looking through you.
So my point being is that there could be a threshold to this, to where your sensitivity or your ability, your connectedness, is maybe what allows you to feel like, yeah, I know it's just a vase of flowers, but we are experiencing each other right now because I'm observing them, and quantum theory suggests that they're behaving in a manner that is being dictated by the fact that we're observing each other, right? It's good shit to try to get your head around and have conversations like this, especially as it pertains to afterlife and consciousness, because I think when people say there is consciousness beyond death, I am on the fence as to whether that cheapens consciousness or reveres it, because you ultimately, when you die, you want to die with grace and dignity and send your consciousness off into a place where it can contribute positivity in the afterlife. But that would be the best way to go about life if you're an optimist and trying to be a positive person and contributor on the planet. I think a lot of people don't even think about it, so it's irrelevant to them. But I also think that there's tremendous value in understanding that your consciousness is here only for the time that you're alive. And so this is your one opportunity to experience consciousness to its fullest, which is why you shouldn't drink as much alcohol as I do, or as Mike once did, because consciousness is the only thing we ever get. And with that, you can perform all kinds of things. Like you can be Rabbi Shmuley and humiliate your entire religion.
Let's do
You
it.
can, or you can be like Harold Ramis and give people Ghostbusters and Groundhog Day. And, we went and saw it over the weekend. There was a kid who's probably like 9 years old dancing at the end of the movie when they're playing the theme song. I was like 6 years old when I saw it in the theater. That's 40 years of joy and entertainment.
Yeah.
Right.
That's a lot. That's a lot of joy to bring people.
And Harold Ramis isn't here, as far as I can tell, to express his consciousness other than the way his ideas are manifesting. So you could make the argument his consciousness is kind of here because he has loved ones and friends who are carrying it on. But is he really here? Is his consciousness really here? Or is that what constitutes consciousness?
I don't know. There's like the objects and the art he produced. Is there some sliver of his personality that continues on through that? Some of his consciousness, his imprint on that he can still experience this realm, even though his spirit is no longer here or consciousness.
That's an interesting way to put it. Because isn't it a two-way street? So if he's not experiencing anything, does that count as consciousness?